Good morning. We are in Genesis chapter 5, and we are going to come up against our very first genealogy, everybody's favorite. But we are going to see from Adam all the way to Noah. We're not going to look at a ton of it, but I'm going to highlight some things that the Lord kind of opened my eyes to and highlighted for me. But one thing to note is how long these people were living. Okay, so we got in the 900s to start, and then it starts to kind of gradually go down. But then you get Enoch, and I'm going to look at Enoch. We're going to look at Enoch for a few minutes. He lived 365 days, which was that's short, like super short, which is hilarious thinking about our lifespan today. But Enoch gives birth to somebody you may have heard of, Methuselah. He's the person that lived the longest, 969 years. And then Methuselah's son was Lamech, who was the son of Noah. And so very interesting to know is that Adam, he lived 930 years. And if you were to write all this down, and I did it, and you can find these things online that will trace this, if you all the way down 930 years, and then you trace how old people were when they had their kids, and Lamech, the father of Noah, he was alive when Adam was still alive. And so Lamech was 56 years old when Adam died. So one of the cool things to think about is he may have sat with Adam, but regardless of whether he sat with Adam or met with Adam at all, they're all one big descended family. The first-hand story accounts would have still been so real because Adam would have been able to tell the story of walking in the garden with God and what that was like in the presence of God and what happened. So the accuracy and being able to, not like the telephone story, the broken telephone thing. No, we would have had more clarity up until Lamech is alive. 56 is still a decent age for comprehension, to be able to listen and hear these things. So those are things that are cool to note. And then Noah comes along some years after that. But I want to go back up to Enoch. Enoch is the person that the Lord really highlighted for me, because if you read in Genesis 5:22, this is what it says about Enoch. Enoch walked with God after he fathered Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus, all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Listen to verse 24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Like, what? What? Why did God take him? And what's the idea of God that Enoch walked with God? I know, we know that practically speaking, that Adam and Eve had the opportunity to walk with God in the garden, but that didn't happen after. So what does it mean that Enoch walked with God? Well, I think it has a lot to do with listening, obeying, pressing into, trying to stay in step with God and what he says, in living a life that is righteous. And let me say, in Hebrews, again, we keep finding little things in Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith, about the stories that we've been reading so far. This is true of Enoch as well. So in Hebrews 11, verse 5, it says, by faith, Enoch was taken up so that he should not see death. Interesting. And he was not found because God had taken him. Now, before he was taken, he was commended as having, ready, pleased God. So all we know based on these verses is that Enoch pleased God, and it was by faith that he was taken up, so he didn't see death. He never died physically. God took him. And that before that, he was noted as pleasing God, and that he walked with God. And so what was it about Enoch and his faith that pleased God. Now remember, right after, this is the context of the next verse where it says, we read it yesterday, without faith it is impossible to please God. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those that seek him. So those are two things that were true. We can apply that to Enoch, that he drew near to God, and that he believed that he existed, and that he was a rewarder of those who seek him. So he was seeking after God, and he was seeking to what? Stay in step and to please him and to live according to what he said. Now, one other really important thing when it comes to talking about Enoch is Jude. It's a 1-chapter book of the Bible right before Revelation, so at the other end of this book of our Bible. And listen to what it says in verse verse 14. Yeah, it says this. It was also about these people, and we'll go back and we'll look at that in a second, that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied, saying, behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. So this is in quotes. So it's noted that Enoch prophesied. So this means that God gave him a message, gave him something to tell people. So this is another thing that we know then of Enoch, was that God trusted him with his message. And Enoch was faithful to deliver it. And so, did you notice how many times ungodly came up in what Enoch was given to say? It comes up to execute judgment on all, convict the ungodly of their deeds, their ungodliness that they have committed in an ungodly way, harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. So this is a message of what God feels and how he acts toward ungodliness and the ungodly. And so what was it about? And this is what I just wanted to look a little bit more like, what was it about the ungodliness? And how is it described? And listen to this, verse 16, the very next verse. These, okay, remember verse 14 that I just read, it was about these that Enoch prophesied. So verse 16, these are, this is what they're described as, grumblers. This is crazy. I wrote this down. Grumblers, complainers, living only to satisfy their desires. They brag loudly about themselves, and they flatter others to get what they want. Does that sound at all like anyone you know? And listen, don't forget to look in the mirror. I'm speaking to myself, because I literally went upstairs after I was getting ready for this and chatted with Patty for 2 minutes, and I had just said to her, yeah, this is what the Lord's highlighting for me about these, ungodly, and this is something that Enoch prophesied about and spoke into. This was the message, and they were described as people that were grumblers and complainers. And we finished talking about that, and then I proceeded to grumble and complain about something. And she just is like smiling and looking at me, and I was like, oh my word, it's just so real, like it can just creep in and out. And remember, Jesus is the one that says that out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so if you go back to yesterday, remember we talked about that idea of like going to the physician, getting those wounds lanced, right? And letting that stuff that's building up in our hearts just pour out, but pour out to the Lord, to the right person, going to him, confession, getting it out. Because listen, if we don't get it out, it comes out here. And if you want to know what's in my heart, listen to what's coming out of my mouth. If you want to know what's deep in your heart, listen to what's coming out of your mouth. People around you. And so like it was really convicting. And I mean, this verse I go to often because it's so interesting. So Philippians says this in chapter 2. This is what Paul wrote. Do all things without what? Grumbling and disputing and complaining, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you, ready, shine as lights in the world. In Matthew, Jesus said this too, right? Like, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. But regardless of the works that we do, the words that are coming out of our mouth are going to either cause us to be a light, or we're just going to fall in like everyone else and be grumblers and complainers in this dark world. We do it all the time. About the people that we work with, the people we work for, the people we work and serve. Like it's easy to do this. Our family members, our situation. It's raining today. You know, like it's really easy to grumble, and it's really easy to have conversations around that, because guess what? We all have it in common. And so when you come to meet someone, you come to talk to somebody, what do? We want to try and have something in common to connect, because we all want connection. And so often it's something that we connect over. Politics, the snow, or like, oh man, the cost of food. And it's one thing to talk about these things, but is it complaining? Is it grumbling? It's that idea of like the low murmur, right? Is that what we're doing? And it was just a check for me, because it was really interesting that this came up this morning, because yesterday I was thinking about that picture of the wise man and the foolish man, and one builds their house on sand and one builds their house on the rock, and the one on the rock has a foundation, the one on the sand doesn't. But check it out, ready? I can't see below the surface, so we really don't know really whose lives are built on the rock and whose lives aren't, except that a couple of tells. One is when the storm comes. When the storm comes, the house that has a foundation will stay standing. The house that doesn't is going to fall flat. Now, this is just the picture, the image that God gave to me yesterday, thinking about grumbling and complaining, is this. You ever hear that phrase, leave the light on? Leave the light on. I'll leave the light on for you. You're working a late shift. I'm going to be in bed. I'll leave the light on for you. I wonder if just that, I don't know, that was just an illustration for me, is that when people need to know what house is safe. I can't see underneath, and I don't know who's got a foundation or not. But if the foundation is proven by what comes out of my mouth, or in this illustration with Paul, the light that's shining, then maybe that's the sign, is to be able to go, okay, there's something different about her. The words that she speaks, the way that she acts it's different. There's a light on for them to be able to go to that house, a safe place, even before the storm hits. And so that was just a picture for me, that like when we are able to heed Enoch's prophecy that God gave him, the message that he sent him with, is to listen, beware of these people. And here's how you can tell who they are, is they're grumblers, they're complainers. And they're focused on satisfying their own desires. They brag loudly about themselves. And can I just say something? I know this is like just a little bit of a soapbox. There's a trend that is going around and has been for years. I don't know if you talk to someone and you compliment them, you validate them, and you say, girl, listen, you really crushed that. You're really good at that. And they look at you and they go, yeah, I do. I am awesome. I am great at that. Listen, we've been sending out a message of just like, you need to grow in your self-confidence and and really stand up for yourself and be a strong woman and be independent and validate, right? And like, don't talk down about yourself. Listen, I'm not talking about talking down about ourselves, but there is truth in scripture that says, let another person's words affirm you. Like, let somebody else talk about you well and not yourself. Because I'm just be honest, I don't know if you guys feel like that, but it can come off as arrogant, it can come off as pride, and listen, there's a resistance to that. And even God, it says he resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Humble doesn't talk down about yourself. Humble doesn't have to like not know that God has equipped you well. But there is this like self-promotion that is, it's just gross. It's just gross. And so that was just something that came to mind when I read this, who brag loudly about themselves and just put all their stuff out there about how awesome they are. Like, part of this message that Enoch was given, and this is another thing that was very timely for me, is, and they flatter others to get what they want. And this is something I think like all of us can check ourselves on, because man, when we are looking for the thing that we need and then somebody else has it, and this can be anything from funding for an organization or a position at work or just an opportunity, are the things that I'm saying, are they spoken out of sincerity and genuineness, or are they manipulative? And I think it lands. I think it lands on people, and maybe not everyone is going to be aware when they're being manipulated and when it's just flattery, but we can pray to discern that in other people, but also to discern that in ourselves, like to check ourselves and to not. And Jesus is big on this, right? Not giving favor. Not giving someone the seat of honor that comes in, and moving somebody that's, impoverished, to give them the seat of honor because they have influence and they have power and they have the ability to provide for you opportunities or connections. Jesus didn't do that, and I love that so much. And I know we're in the Old Testament, but we're going to get to there, and we're going to see Jesus call people like this out boldly, and himself be the example to say, follow what I do and what I say. You follow what they say, but don't follow what they do. You can follow what Jesus did and said. And so these are things that he was so good at. And so these were just cautions of this very old prophecy from a man that was taken to heaven. And I wonder, it says in Hebrews, right, he was taken by faith so that he would not see death. Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes when I look around the world and I see everything that's going, and you think about what might be coming, and like, how many of you would sign up for a free trip early? No pain, no suffering, straight to the presence of God. His son was old enough by the time he left, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I also think that there was just something, I heard somebody say once about Enoch, that God just loved him, man, and just like hugged him, and there was just one time that he just squeezed him a little bit too tight and right into the presence of God, like which is kind of a funny thought, but like I think he was one of his best friends, and he enjoyed walking with him and talking with him. Obviously he gave him messages, and I think he really enjoyed Enoch. And I just love that thought. And I would really love to be somebody that the Lord enjoyed spending time with. And so jump over to, Galatians 5, where it says, and walk by the Spirit and stay in step with the Spirit. Those are things that we can try and do like Enoch. Enoch walked with God. Let's try and do that. We have the Holy Spirit with us. He is God, fully God. Let's try and walk with him in a way that pleases him. And maybe he'll just hug us into heaven.